old dump and the opening of a new landfill. This project is scheduled to completed January 2022. Work is ongoing. We estimated about 200 jobs would be created on this project, and persons who traverse through that area on a daily basis will see the significant work that is taking place there on that important project. Waste management is a critical issue for us, and we have been working. We know that we had some serious challenges with fires from the old site, and this work will correct those measures, and we shouldn't see any more fires going forward once we condemn that old site. So this is very important for us. The St. George Market Square, we have completed the work on the booths, the new booths. We are just wrapping up some work on the toilet, the washroom facilities. As soon as that is completed, the area will be open for use for our vendors. So that is another project that we have. Another important project is the St. David's Fire Department. This project is about 50% completed. It's ongoing, and work is progressing nicely. About 80 plus jobs are going to be created on this project for St. David's. As you have realized, there have always been a challenge for St. David's in terms of fire response, because sometimes the fire engine have to come from St. George's or all the way from Grenville. As such, we see the need to have that fire department with a fire engine station at the St. David's police station, so to improve the response for fires within the community of St. David. This is a very important initiative for the parish of St. David's. Another important project that we have been working on for quite some time is the Grenville Commercial Complex. That project we have tendered, we have received the bids, and a preferred bidder would be submitted today to the procurement board for no objection. Also, the Simon Cultural Center, likewise, it was tendered, evaluations were done, a preferred bidder was selected, and recommendations are going to be sent to the procurement board for a no objection approval. That will be done today. So we hope with these two projects, once we have those no objections returned from the procurement board, we can see groundbreaking on those two projects before the end of this year. So we are happy about these two projects. These are important projects for the parish of St. Andrews. Especially the Simon Cultural Center, is a project that has a significant cultural, historic value for that community. And of course, they look forward to seeing that facility up back and having cultural events taking place there once more as it used to be in the past. This facility was destroyed by Hurricane Ivan, and as such we are happy as a government to be able to bring this, to restore this back to the community of St. Andrews. We also just want to give an update on, we have been doing a number of concrete works, and just to give a summary as to the amount of concrete works that the ministry have done to this date. We have done over 230 concrete pavements in different lengths in various throughout all parishes, including Carriacou and Pedimatnik as well. We see in excess of 2,500 jobs created from those initiatives, and we do have some more to finish up for this year. In terms of schools, we have done significant work. We work with the Ministry of Education closely, and over 90 schools have received significant renovation, and we will have more update on schools as we move forward. I now want to turn to transport, just to update on transport. The transport sector continues to evolve. We see an increase in vehicles on our roadways daily, and the impact of that, not only from a social standpoint or even from an emission standpoint, but also from a management standpoint, it has become challenging for everyone. As such, steps have been made to establish the Transport Commission as a management structure to manage the transport sector going forward. And in so doing, we are working, and we will have more information going forward on the establishment and staffing of the transport sector. On or before the end of this year, we'll give an update on that. However, we are working closely with our strategic partners in terms of doing the necessary studies, building the necessary capacity to get the commission and also Grenada, the transport sector, in line with where it should be. As such, we have been working closely with the Caribbean Development Bank, who are working with us on a couple of projects. And today, I just want to mention two important projects. The first project is the development of sustainable public transport system project. This project is a regional project, and both Grenada and St. Lucia are the two pilot countries that have been approved to participate in this important project. What this project seeks to do is seek to look at all the regulatory structures, the issue of policies, national policies, other critical factors relating to the transport sector and ways to see how we can improve them. It will also look at the management of the public transport sector and to offer ways in terms of how it can be improved. And this study will also look at data, important data, how that can improve operations. It will also look at the transition in the use of electric low-emission carbon buses as a way, in a well-structured and inclusive way, to bring in that as part of the transport component in Grenada, including St. Lucia as a pilot. So such studies we expect to benefit significantly from that. This project timeline is from September of 2021 to September of 2022. Is for 1 year. The cost for this project is $875,000, for which it will be shared between both Grenada and St. Lucia for implementation. So we look forward to this important project. The CDB has so far selected a consulting firm by the name of MCRIT. It's a firm out of Barcelona in Spain, and so they are the ones who have been awarded the contract to implement this important project. In the coming months, we should see their presence here in Grenada, as well also in St. Lucia, as they work together with the Transport Commission and, of course, the Ministry of Finance, the Department of Technical and Economic Cooperation, who is also a lead on this project for implementing this important study for us to help improve our transport sector going forward. It is very important to note that all our stakeholders are going to play a critical role in the implementation of this project. They are going to be engaged as information from persons who participate in the sector, persons who engage in, like for example, our bus operators, truck operators, businesses who move cargo, even persons or automotive industry who buy and sell vehicles. They are going to be part and parcel of this study. Another project that is also that is funded through CDB is called the Engender project, and this project complements that first project that I just spoke about previously. It's a project that looks at the social component, how communities are affected by transport, like the women, elderly, children, persons with disabilities. And so they're going to look into see how we can improve that aspect on the social side. And this is a very important project. This project will go on for 6 months at a cost of $50,000 US. So we're looking forward to this project as well, because from time and time again we hear from the community about persons who have disabilities, the elderly who have challenges, sometimes wanting to go to the grocery, sometimes wanting to go to do medicals. And so these are some of the things that we are looking at to put in some specific responses in place to assist those persons who are challenged moving forward. So these are the main updates that we want to share with the public at this point in time, because I know that the Ministry of Health do have some important information, and we are planned to return to give more updates as we move forward with those important projects. Thank you very much, Desdian, for your time.
Thank you very much, Senator Cox. Colleagues, you've heard from Senator Cox. Anybody has questions for him before we move on to the team from the Ministry of Health?
Yes, I do. Would he be there still after the ministry speak, or we have to take his questions now?
Lin- Linda Straker, good morning.
Hi, good morning. I was inquiring whether or not the
Linda, good morning. You have questions? Go right ahead.
Yes, I have questions. You're not hearing me?
Yes. We're hearing you, Linda. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. My first inquiry was whether or not the minister would leave, or he will be able to take questions after the other ministers speak.
No, we're doing the Senator Cox now, and then the Ministry of Health team will come on. So go ahead.
Okay. My first question to Senator Cox is recently, sometime in September, October, we would have had a lot of rain, and one of those, after one of those showers come down, we would have seen what happened to the St. John's River project. There were a lot of flooding. Can you tell us whether or not an assessment was done in regard to if anything were lost following the flooding? How the flooding affected the project from the rain?
Thank you very much for your question. It's a very important question. When we decided to commence with this project, we were well aware of the risk associated with rainfall. You're actually walking in a live river, and so measures were looked at. Mitigation measures were put in place to minimize those risks. We cannot avoid them, but we can minimize them, and such measures were put in place. In terms of any significant losses, no, there were no significant losses. The contractor worked pretty well with the subcontractors in moving quickly to do his implementation. If anything, what you have was maybe a loss of time, where some of the structures, they may have to go back and put back soil or remove soil that may have got into areas where concrete had to be cast. So no major impact in terms of on the project thus far, and we are very grateful for that, and we are happy that the contractor can move on during this period. Thank you.
Any other question from you, Linda?
Yes, my other question, I know I was distracted a little bit, so I don't know if he would have spoke about it, but the Molyneux area, is he in a position to give us an update as to what is taking place there now, what work has been done, and so forth? Can you update us about that Molyneux area, what is taking place there?
Thank you very much for that. Molyneux is a very significant project for not just for the constituency, but for the country as a whole, because it connects the north of the island. And we see that a number of businesses, persons' livelihoods would have been eroded because of that slippage. The ministry is we're working steadfastly. I can tell you that is one of the projects that is taking up a number of our resources, maybe the majority of our resources, both human and otherwise, and finance as well, in terms of moving the project as quickly as we can. We are working with the consultants, and we are keeping our fingers crossed, and hopefully we should have some deliverables in terms of final designs that can go to procurement very soon. I do not want to speak further because it's very time sensitive, and as soon as we have that update in terms of when we will see some tendering in terms of for infrastructure work, we will definitely come and update the public. But we are working with the consultants right now to have those final designs. Just to bring some appreciation for persons, it's a lot of work that has to go into this, and a lot of processes with the bank in terms of sending in stuff for approval and back and forth, and making sure that everything is in place, because significant monies are going to be spent, and it must be done properly for us to benefit going forward. So we do understand the challenges and the plight of the persons in those communities, and we ask them to continue to work with us and be patient, and we are going to do our best to have it done as quickly as possible. But it is our intention to have infrastructure work commence in 2022 on Molyneux. We are working very, very hard to get to that point. That is what we want to say for now on that project. But we are moving forward. Thank you.
That's it, Linda?
Can you just say, when you said they were working hard and to start a project in 2022, is it the early days of 2022, early months of 22, mid 22, late 22? And what is actually taking place they know? Is a soil test being done? What is it that is happening at the site now? And then my final question will be, the MCRIT contract, was this an international bid contract? And what are the arrangements with this international company to work with local companies?
Thank you. As regards to Molinier, all the geotechnical work have already been done in terms of the sampling, and all that has already been completed. What is taking place now is designs, and you have to have an appreciation that that is going to take some time. So that is where we are. We are at the design stage, and so we are hoping to have those designs and BOQs so that we can have a tender process to see some infrastructure work take place sometime between, let's say, the first and second quarter of 2022, just to be conservative. But we are pushing as much as possible to shorten that time frame because we understand the challenge that we have, and then also we have a time sensitiveness on the side of meeting the bank's requirement in terms of implementation, and of course also the funding agency. On the CDB project, that project it's a CDB project. The procurement process was done by CDB and not us. So I think they would just follow the normal CDB procurement rules and regulations. Of course, they would put it out. It was an international tender, hence a company from Spain won that bid. And so that is where the government of Grenada, we are partnering in this process. So I do not think that there is any challenge or any issues in terms of engaging subcontractors here in Grenada, just following in our procedure. So that is where we are. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. GBN, good morning. You have a question for Senator Cox?
Yes, Senator, good morning. I'm not sure if I missed it. An update on the hotel expansion. In terms of their reports, also reports that there is an asphalt plant being constructed specifically to provide material for the airport. Can you substantiate or deny?
The airport project. We are moving forward steadily, nicely with the airport rehabilitation project. One of the deliverables is resurfacing of the airstrip. And for technical reasons, in terms of the integrity of the asphalt, the relaying of the asphalt, it would make sense to have the asphalt prepared as close as possible to the work of implementation, the site of implementation, so that the asphalt can be laid at the desired temperature. Hence the reason why an asphalt plant is set up. It's a temporary site that is set up. They have done, just to inform the public, they would have done an environmental impact assessment that would have gone through physical planning and approved before setup. Once the project is completed, that plant will be dismantled and removed. For obvious reasons, it would not be able to remain there because of the proximity of the airport. So that is correct, and that plant is currently under construction. Just to add on the airport project as well, we already have approval for the commencements of the work on the bypass road, and that road will go all the way. You won't have to pass in front of the airport going forward, and so we should see commencement on that road very soon as well. Thank you.
That's it for you, Gerard?
I have a follow-up. Minister, you spoke about the bypass road, but in terms of the project itself, where are we in terms of progress? As well, where exactly is the plant located? And my final question, implementation rate was an issue going into this year. We saw the pandemic again disrupting. Where are we now in terms of, are we on cue or are we falling short again with the implementation rate this year?
Good. As regards to the plant is, as indicated, is being constructed in proximity of the airport. It's on airport property that is being done, just right once you drive into the airport, on your left hand side, close to the fence area, you're going to see some work being done, some excavation work. That is where the plant is going to be erected. So that is what is happening on the bypass road. So all that is in preparation. You have a number of design work that is also being done. Those are soft work that have been done in the background as well. So that is what is happening as regards to that project. The second part of your question had to do with implementation rate. I presume that you're speaking about implementation rate. Is it as a whole of government or as a ministry? I'm not sure, but I can speak on the ministry as it is right now. Our last assessment in terms of implementation, we were in the mid 60s in terms of implementation, and we expect that probably to go a little higher as we get closer and we close out before the end of the year. So that is a moving target, as always. You always have work implementing, like for example, the contracts for Seamoon and Grenville Commercial Complex. Once you sign those, you would have a commitment there again. So then you'll see that implementation rate changing and moving up. Now we have Monkuma coming on. That again will change the implementation rate, but we are in the mid 60s currently, but we can see that going in the 70s, probably close to 80. It is highly unlikely that we would have, let's say, a 100% implementation rate. And the reason for that, because some of these projects, like for example, the Seamoon and Grenville Commercial Complex, how the implementation rate is being assessed, it cannot happen because we would not able to complete this project this year. So all of that project would not be done, that it will go into next year. So it will be highly unlikely, based on what you have in your budget, to say that you achieve 100%. Yes, you can start, but you wouldn't finish. And so implementation is assessed throughout its entirety and not just starting, but whatever is completed. And finance also looks at it in terms of what is spent. That is on as one side, and then what you have committed in contracts. So that is a difference. So you may have 100% committed in contracts, but only about 60% spent in terms of what was disbursed. So just to explain so that persons can understand how the implementation is being assessed. But thank you very much for that question.
Thank you, Jared. We have a question from Nisha Paul. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Minister Cox, can you provide an update as it relates to the Felix Park Bridge? I noticed that work has commenced, but it has been on and off. Can you also speak to the contractors on that particular project? Thank you.
Unfortunately, I cannot give you I do not have an update as to where that project is right now and what's the reason for the starting and stop. But what I can tell you is that we have been having some challenges in terms of inputs, materials, supplies. Because of COVID, because of the amount of work that we have ongoing in Grenada, there has been a significant demand for materials, lumber, sand, cement, steel. And so I want to suspect that is one of the reasons why you have those stoppages, persons not being able to get material. We also have challenges, and I can tell you we have concrete roads that have been cast, and you have challenges getting concrete from the companies that supply ready-mix concrete because of the demand that we have. So those are some of the issues that are taking place in the background that I believe would contribute to any stoppages of the job. Thank you.
That's it, Nisha.
Can you also speak to the contractor on that particular project, the Felix Park Bridge?
I am not aware of who the contractor is. Honestly, we have hundreds of projects running. I cannot tell you all the contractors, and that is a small project. If it's a large project, I might have that right at my fingertips. But some of the smaller projects, I do not know all the contractors. But I can get the information. You can always call me, and I can get the information for you as soon as I leave here. That's not a problem.
Thank you very much, Minister.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Nisha. Nancy Maguire, good morning.
Good morning. You had mentioned that the Grenville complex is going to get underway before the end of the year. Can you tell us where the vendors in the little mall there would be going? And your comments on the 2 studies on transportation. In the throne speech, the Governor General referred to a resilient, high quality, and affordable public transport system. Is that connected to those studies? And how do we have a public transport system with privately owned vehicles? And lastly, you had visited the Sotez market where there had been some thefts of vendors' produce, and cupboards were constructed, but the roof is still leaking and the concrete is crumbling. So I'm wondering, what are your plans for these chronic problems at the Sotez market? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Nancy. And probably I could start with the last question first regarding the Sotez market. Yes, I did visit the market and did have sight of the challenges in terms of the pilferage that was taking place there. And we have made recommendations to have that rectified, and so that is in order. But as regards to those new issues, and you say that they are chronic, I am not aware of them. But however, once we have sight of any issues, any concerns, we normally respond. Those are not major issues, and that can be addressed over a weekend in some cases. So thank you for that information. We'll look into that definitely. As regards to the transport sector, yes, the study, as I indicated, will be data-driven. We will be collecting data that will help frame how we go forward. As regards to how it will complement or be integrated with our current transportation system that we have, where it's driven by private owners, that is something that will be fleshed out from the study. But if we notice our current transport system is not, it doesn't have speciality in any case. It doesn't cater for the elderly kids. Everybody have to fit into these buses same size. So there are opportunities for the public, for government to get involved in providing transportation support in those areas. And so I guess as much the study will help flesh that out, and it will give us a clear indication as to what is on the ground, what are some of the needs, and where the challenges are, and how we can even improve how the current bus operators operate to help improve their business as well. That is some of the things that we're looking to achieve from that. As regards to the Grenville Commercial Complex, that issue with current tenants or so, the board, there's a board for the Grenville Commercial Complex. That board, they will handle those matters and tidy up that themselves. We are only responsible for the infrastructure component of the project. On the soft side of the project, in terms of tenants and who will be getting lots, the board is responsible for that. That is not our responsibility on this project. Thank you.
That's it for you, Nancy?
No, I didn't get my questions answered. First one on the Sotez was the leaky roof. It's been leaking for years, and it's been reported to the Member of Parliament. And I wasn't asking about vendors in the new commercial complex in Grenville. I'm asking about the vendors that are on the outside of that, where that new building is going to be constructed. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for clearing it up. Well, I presume if there are vendors outside where infrastructure work have to be done, they would have to be relocated somewhere else. That, of course. So, as I indicated, the Grenville Commercial Complex Board are the ones that will have to be dealing with that, addressing that, meeting with those persons, probably along together with the parliamentary rep to address that. The Ministry of Infrastructure, we are just concerned about the infrastructural work. That is our responsibility. So that will be addressed by the relevant persons. As regards to the Sotez market, as I said, I am not aware of leaking a roof, and I couldn't recall that. And if that is being addressed, sent to us, we will address it. So as I said, thank you for the information in that regard. Those are not difficult things to remedy, and I can assure you that we will respond and have it rectified. Thank you very much for that, Nancy.
All right, thank you so much. So we have no more questions. So, Senator, you have the opportunity to make some final comments.
Thank you very much for that. I just want to thank the media, of course, for always engaging and trying to get a sense as to what we are doing and to keep the public engaged. I continue to indicate that our lines of communication are clear. If there is any clarification, anything that persons from the media still feel after today, they need clarification, they can always reach out to us, and we so can provide those information if it's something that they forget to engage us on. So we look forward to that. And we want to also thank the public for working along with us. In some cases, we have been creating some inconveniences for persons who traverse on some of the roads when we do work, and we want to thank persons for their patience in this regard as we try to improve the infrastructure within the country. So as I give the commitment, we are going to continue to bring updates to the public, and we are open to be engaged for questions, clarifications going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Nolan Cox, Minister for Infrastructure Development, Public Utilities, Transport and Implementation. Colleagues, as we mentioned, this is a two-part press conference. So now that Senator Cox is through, we'll take a quick break, colleagues and viewers, and we will come back with the team of the Minister for Health and Social Security, the Honorable Nicholas Steele, as well as the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles. So we'll be right back. Zoom, and of course those of you on Channel 22 or Facebook page, YouTube channel, and you in the diaspora. As we promised, we're back now with the Minister of Health and Social Security, the Honorable Nicholas Steele, as well as the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles, and we're talking health matters now. So without any further ado, I will hand you over to the Honorable Minister. Good morning.
Thank you, Leslie Ann. Good morning to you all, members of the media, all of our individuals out there who are viewing or listening to us through the various mediums. We continue to move along at an acceptable level. I think we are staying the course. We are seeing that the results and the statistics are showing that. We still remember that we've come out from a very dark period. And as such, we still need to maintain a certain level of due diligence and caution. But I really want to take this opportunity to say that we need to get back to normal, to the new normal, and encourage persons who have not yet to interact with our Ministry of Health personnel, particularly for those who still have some questions about vaccinations. We are going to continue this weekend with our vaccine pop-ups all over the island. And even if you are not ready to take a vaccine, I encourage you to come to one of those pop-up centers, because we have individuals there that you can talk to, and also that you can interact with persons who are coming to receive their vaccine. And in many cases, they may be coming to receive their second dose, so you can speak to them and find out from them their experience, what made them finally come forward to take the vaccine, etc. I encourage that dialogue with your fellow Grenadians, not just with ministry personnel. And we do expect and look forward to further easements and getting back to normal, working closer with our hospitality sector as well, and those small businesses that are operating, that are fully compliant, to find ways of getting them, if they're not there as yet, back to an acceptable norm. So we encourage the private sector to continue doing what it has been doing in terms of working with us and cooperating with us, and that coordination. And we encourage them to, because they continue to acknowledge their role in controlling the spread of COVID-19. They took a hit by closing as well, many if not all, to ensure that we were able to take control of the spread. And therefore we now look forward to working with them as they open back up as best as possible, so that we can move forward. So we look forward to continuing that dialogue. We look forward to the consultancies with our various sectors in getting back to normal. So Dr. Sean Charles is going to give you some updates with respect to where we are, and some analysis of where we've come from as well, which just helps us all understand, I think most importantly, where we're going. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. So we now turn our attention to the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles. Good morning.
A warm good morning to you, and good morning to the media and to our Grenadian community. I'm actually pleased to be here to continue the dialogue on our reopening and not the opposite. So, by way of a brief update, I am very pleased to report that for the past weeks we continue to observe a progressive declines in cases, hospitalizations, deaths, and test positivity. So all of these parameters, we have noticed steady declines. In fact, our positivity yesterday was 0. We recorded no new cases. As previously mentioned, however, we will continue to have low-level spread of infection for some time to come. We may have no cases some days, 1, 2, 5, it depends. And that is what we refer to as low-level spread, because the disease, the infection has not left us as yet. So it means that we should not let down our guards. All right, we now are in the stage where we must learn to live with this virus. But today the focus continues to be on reopening and further lifting of restrictions. Next month is Christmas. All right, the year is almost gone. All right, and Christmas is generally a happy time of year for most persons, and we really want everyone, after such a trying year, we want everyone to have an enjoyable Christmas season. But at the same time, it is important to remember where we came from. There were a number of factors that existed at the time when, just before we experienced our outbreak. One, we had low level of population immunity. This low level of immunity was due to, one, we did not have significant previous outbreak or spread of COVID in Grenada, and our vaccination rate was low. It was less than 20% at the time. Chronic diseases are quite common in Grenada, and in many instances, they're poorly controlled. Public health advice was ignored by many. Misinformation was embraced, and of course, this impacted behavior related to persons' own protection against COVID, and it also impacted the uptake of vaccines. It continues to as well. Of course, there was poor adherence to the prevention protocols or the recommendations. And those recommendations are the ones where we say to wear a mask and to distance and to avoid unnecessary gatherings and sanitize and so on. There were multiple mass gatherings, a myriad of mass gatherings everywhere. And of course, there was continuing spread of COVID internationally. Remember, Grenada is not closed off from the rest of the world. And we continue to be open to the rest of the world. And as long as the disease is spreading anywhere internationally, it will remain a threat to us here. And then we had the Delta variant. Possibly the worst combination of events were what we had here in Grenada. And a little on the Delta variant. From the time, soon after it was identified, it quickly became the dominant variant throughout the world. It caused skyrocketing infections and hospitalizations and death in every region, in every country where it entered. It is said to be 60% more infectious than the original COVID variant. So imagine the original COVID variant was already bad, and then we had a variant that developed that was 60 times more easy to spread from person to person. And of course, the viral loads that were seen in these individuals were found to be up to 1,000 times higher. All right, hence explaining its infectiousness in part. And of course, the number of days it takes for someone to fall sick was shorter, an average of 4 days as opposed to 6 with the previous. And of course, it is estimated that with Delta, one person goes on to infect 8 or 9 other persons, as opposed to 2 with the original variant. So we got hit by a monster. All right, we got hit by a monster. So at least this should convey what we recently had to deal with. All right, and it is by through hard work and the grace of God that we are here today, and we are talking about opening up. All right, we are talking about we are on the way, we are on the other side, on the recovery side. So this variant being by its nature, by the time we identified individuals during that cluster, during that recent upsurge, by the time we identified most individuals, they had already infected their entire family. So by the time we identified a positive person, when you investigate and you test, in most instances, the entire family had already got the infection. Of course, we know we had some events in August, the results of which resulted in what we call seeding of the infection in multiple communities at the same time, all over the island. All right, so we had persons from all over the island being infected almost simultaneously, and this resulted in an explosive rise of cases. So within a 6-week period, our cases shot up within 2, 3, 4 weeks, and massive increase in numbers. And then soon after, we peaked, and then cases began to drop. So, I mean, I said all of this so that we would remember as we open. Let us remember what we have just experienced. Let us learn from our past mistakes, and let us, we have to make a promise to ourselves and be determined to not repeat them. We want everyone to keep their guards up. And remember that we are all in this together. And we can only all come out of this together. Thank you for now.
Thank you, Dr. Charles. Colleagues, you've heard from the Honorable Minister Nicholas Steele, as well as the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles. Are you ready with your questions? Well, since nobody is ready with their questions just yet, CMO, let me just ask, the lockdown weekends, as we call no movement weekends, as we call them, how effective, just put into context for us, how effective those weekends were to help in curbing the spread of the virus?
All right, so very good question. So the lockdown weekends helped in different ways. One, remember, this is a virus that spreads from person to person, so it is carried from one person to the other. The lockdown weekends afford limited persons' ability to move and to move extensively around the country, and hence reduced on the number of interactions and on the number of exposures and on the number of persons becoming infected. All right, that was one objective. But another objective was to allow our health team to be able to go out there, do testing. The persons are locked down there in their communities. Go to those communities, do testing, and do vaccinations, which we did. And when we started, we noticed a very overwhelming response. We got to communities, and we got a lot of persons coming out, a lot of persons. I remember when we just started, we went to one community, that community center over in Calivini, and in one day we got 82 positive cases. All right, so we noticed when we started, all right, large numbers of persons were coming out for testing and vaccination. And as we repeated that every week, what we noted was that the number of positives started declining, the number of persons accepting vaccinations started increasing, and that continued progressively. So that the lockdown weekends also provided us with data to understand the evolution of the outbreak. Because what we noticed from going communities to communities, we understood which communities were experiencing very high levels of disease, of infection, which were not. All right. So this provided us with information to calculate the test positivity rate. So we understood better what is happening in the country. It's not just testing that is done in the lab in St. George. We now have information of what is happening in Tivoli and in Hermitage and in Calivini and in Grandance and in Vendome. You now give us that information so that we understood what is happening in the community. And this information is what we used to make decisions as to, where do we go next? What do we do next? So that's what, in my opinion, made those lockdown weekends very successful.
Thank you, CMO. Minister, so there was a special sitting of the House of Representatives yesterday. Now, for those who may have missed it, just to re-emphasize the point for us, as you did mention, it's not because government is unreasonable in wanting to extend the period of the state of emergency, but just because we need to ensure that we do not reverse the gains that we've made, although the numbers are low right now. We don't want people to get back into that state of complacency.
Lezian, thank you for that. Yes, the part of the success that we have had is our ability to react and to react quickly. Our ability to use the restriction of movement in particular, as the CMO just pointed out, but to use it appropriately. As we just did, during the week, persons could move about, but after a certain hour, we stop the movement because we recognize from this disease transmits through social interaction in particular, or more so than other forms of interaction, much higher level. So we use those laws to have us plead with, encourage the cooperation of the people of Grenada, and we got it. So as we move forward, we continue to encourage the cooperation of the people of Grenada, and we continue to get that. We're all working together. We're all in this together. But we extend the state of emergency, which has those restrictions, so that we can use them if we do, but we most definitely say, and as I've said this morning too, we look forward to the further easement and not using them. But we do need, similar to the fact that we have, Senator Cox spoke about fire departments and expansions, etc., of fire departments, in the hope that you'll never need to use them, but that if you do, they're there, and that they can be utilized as quickly as possible. So that's the general idea there with the extension of the state of emergency. Let's call it that fire engine, should this fire erupt again, that it can come to the response as quickly as possible. But like all of us, we hope that it just stays parked there, not being used.
Thank you very much. Nancy McGuire, you have questions? Go right ahead.
Thank you. I wonder if Dr. Charles could give us some advice on booster shots. I noticed the Prime Minister got his, and I'm wondering about the rest of us. And in Parliament yesterday, Honourable Boatson had suggested that reaching out to people that are not getting vaccinated, the statistics show that they're in rural areas and they're elderly, and this might include house-to-house calls. So what are the plans for that? And what are the role of monitoring as we open more and people are more enticed to gather? Who's going to be monitoring? Are we still going to be having help for the Royal Grenada Police Force? Thank you.
Okay, so as it relates to booster shots, as a Ministry of Health, we are not opposed to booster shots. In fact, we hope to eventually make booster shots available to all of those persons who are identified as requiring a booster shot. On a case-by-case basis, we have offered booster shots to some individuals, because there are individuals who bear increased risk, and they have been identified to us, and we have offered booster shots to them. Right now, it is just a question of inventory, number of doses that we have available to the population, and number of doses that we can make available for boosters. When we do get our future shipments of vaccines, all right, we will make further announcements on boosters, because it's not that we are announcing that everyone should come in and get a booster right now. There are persons who bear a certain amount of risk, maybe because of their underlying health problem or because they are exposed to additional risk by occupation or otherwise. All right, and we will identify these individuals and inform them once we have sufficient doses that they can now receive these boosters. So in summary, yes, we are supportive of boosters, but it's a matter of supply at this point in time.
Let me just add to that. It's one of the challenges created by COVID-19 and in particular by vaccine hesitancy. We have thousands of individuals here in Grenada who have been totally compliant with respect to vaccine, who came forward in February and March and April and got their first and their second dose of vaccines fully, and protected themselves as best as possible, took out their insurance policy, so to speak, in terms of the vaccination. They recognize the risk that COVID posed to them, either from comorbidities, their age, or just to make sure that they gave themselves and their loved ones a fighting chance. They are now coming forward to us to say, well, I'd like to have a booster because I'm hearing everybody, all the CDC, WHO, etc., talking about boosters. We are still dealing with the limited stock and logistical challenges we have with vaccines. And the moral, ethical question and challenge and debate for discussion is, should we give the vaccines that we have to those who have been compliant and are looking for their booster shot? And should we also make sure that we have vaccines for those who are coming forward finally now for their first dose or for their second dose? And it's a challenge. There's no right or wrong answer, but it is a challenge, and that's why you may find what you get from us is not a clear position of come in to take your booster or don't come in to take your booster as yet, because we're trying to please everybody here. We're trying to make sure that we have enough vaccines for those who are finally coming for their first dose, those who need to have their second dose in a prescribed period, and also those who are saying, well, I'm following all of the advice of the medical personnel, public health officials, and therefore I'm now coming for my vaccine because I've been following you guys since February or March of this year. So it's been difficult, but we will do our best to accommodate everyone as best as possible. This is what we have been trying to do from the beginning, and we hope to be able to continue to do that with the cooperation and understanding from everybody out there.
So I wanted to touch on the last question with regards to, so yeah, now we are opening up. Who is going to monitor all of these people to ensure that they are, doing what they're supposed to do? The thing is, we really wish, after all I have just said earlier, we really wish that persons will self-monitor, because there has to be some level of personal responsibility going forward. Given all that I've just mentioned and all of the factors that existed leading up to this situation that we just had, we are hoping that persons would have learned something new, and that they will take some personal responsibility, and that they will do the right thing, so that we don't have to have persons monitoring. I mean, this isn't, I don't think we are turning into a state where we have to be watching everyone 24/7. I don't think that is, even practical. So we rely heavily on persons doing the responsible and doing the responsible thing and doing the right thing. And we don't want to be chasing anyone in back alleys at clandestine gatherings. You have to recognize the risk to your own self and do the right thing. We are opening up, we are lifting restrictions, and that is the purpose. The purpose is to lift restrictions. not to put on more. All right, and we do hope that persons will understand this and behave responsibly. That is all we are asking.
I think part of when we say learn to live with COVID is I mean, we've all learned quite a lot over the last several weeks. Some of us have paid a severe price, lost loved ones, of the tremendous hardship, and as such, part of living with COVID now or moving on is that we trust that we will all keep our guards up. We trust that we all have an understanding now of this monster called COVID-19, and we trust that we will all do the right thing. I think we can't keep on with these expecting that it's the Ministry of Health and the police force that are going to make sure that everybody does the right thing, as opposed to us just making sure that we all do our part. I think I know for sure the Ministry of Health and the team, they're tired. They've been through a lot. The team at the General Hospital, our community health, those of us who are on front lines testing on those weekends and continue to be testing and vaccines every weekend. We've never stopped. The police have been out there too. Many of the members of the force were infected. Many of our health personnel themselves were infected, like many of our communities. They lived in the very communities that the infection spread in. We move on now. We understand how the infection spreads. No longer we've been told. We now clearly understand. We've lived it. We've experienced it. It's like hurricane. You could be told about a hurricane and you could live through a hurricane. We've lived through a hurricane called COVID-19 Delta variant in Grenada. So I think we all very much understand, and my sincere hope, and the CMOs and the Commissioner of Police and us in the government, is that we can move forward with that mutual respect and understanding of COVID-19 and not need law enforcement down our backs or peeping over our shoulders or so to make sure.